Welcome to Kayla Jean on her swing. It's a Tuesday morning instead of a Monday. You may have noticed that we have moved it, mostly because I want you to be able to see the pretty background of my neighbor's yard that I love way more than our yard. They have these really beautiful pink, white, and purple trees that turn that color this springtime, and so I love sitting and getting to look out at it. And it's so nice because they really do have this beautiful yard and they love gardening, and they take care of it really well and tend to it often. The people that lived here before us were big gardeners also, and I know nothing about gardening, and we planted little plants a lot when we were little and weeded the garden bed, and that's about it. But she had all these different bushes and flower bushes and just stuff everywhere randomly, and I didn't know what half of it was. I didn't know how to care for it, nor did I really have an interest to, right? So we're good at mowing the yard, trimming bushes, raking leaves. Like that's our wheelhouse of what we know. But the thing about hobbies and interests are that when you care about them, you learn about it and you desire to know more about it, and it interests you, and you can retain information better, I think, about things that you care about. And so for me, for instance, when I read cookbooks or read information or articles about food or cooking and baking, those things make sense to me. It's a language that I understand. There's terms that maybe don't relate to other subjects but relate in cooking, and so I understand that, and I can retain that knowledge. Whereas, when it's gardening or things that I don't understand, I'm just not as motivated because I don't understand it. I don't know how to take care of that and things, except for herbs, which obviously have something to do with food. And so I do have mint that is like 3 generations old. It was my great aunt's, and then it got replanted because it's really a very durable. Oh, look at me, I do know some things about planting, but mint is really resilient, and so you can transplant it. So it was at my great aunt's house, they had mint, and then it was at my grandmother's house, and my mom has had it, and I've had it, so maybe that's 4, I don't know, but it's been replanted several times. I think my aunt Missy even has some. But so I have mint. That's the one thing I often tend to. I had basil last summer that doesn't come up every year like the mint does, and so I'll have to get some more basil. But that's what I know about gardening and what I actually care about and tend to. So every year in the spring, we're like, what in the world do we do? And so trying to take care of all this extra stuff. And so yesterday we just kind of decided, like, let's just get rid of the things that we don't know what to do with. Leaves just keep piling in them. There's care that needs to be done to these plants to make them rebloom and stay healthy. And we just don't have, and I don't mean like we don't care about our yard, but also like I don't care about plants to the degree that some people do, and just my time and where I choose to invest in. So we want our yard to look nice, so we just thought, let's take care of the things we don't know and get rid of them. So my husband worked all yesterday morning in the yard, cutting down a whole bunch of shrubs and just things that weren't growing as well, and just collecting leaf piles and that we didn't know what to do with. So he worked really hard, got a lot of that stuff taken care of. Yesterday afternoon I went out and was shaking a sheet of some crumbs and things, and noticed that my mint was gone. Now, if you remember, I said that it was several generations old of mint, and I really love mint in the summertime in my tea and even my water with orange. Really good. You should try that. Delicious. And so it had already started to come back, obviously, and I was so excited about it, and some of it hadn't grown really big, but I also thought maybe I'll go ahead and take some for a drink this week for my tea or water. And I was so sad. I came inside and I was like, my mint, you pulled up my mint. And he didn't know, he doesn't pay attention to where my stuff was growing, and I should have told him that that's where that was, and he was in this, mode of just clean it all up, so it's fine. But I was really sad. And I may have a flair for drama unintentionally sometimes, but I may or may not have been on the floor for a second, not crying or whining, but just had this feeling in the pit of my stomach that I felt really sad about it. And partly because it was that was at my grandma's house and it's gone, but also I wanted that mint so badly and it's gone. And then have you ever had the feeling where you want to cry but you can't, which doesn't normally happen to me because almost always I cry, and I couldn't cry about it, which is probably fine. But I was just so sad and laying there, and I just had this moment where I was like, am I being reasonable? And the reason I say that reasonable is because I wrote last week in my blog, if you got a chance to look at it, about being reasonable and the command that Paul gives us in Philippians to be reasonable. And I feel like my husband is somebody that demonstrates that really well. And so as I'm crumpled up on the floor, laying there, not being, absurd, but just kind of like processing this, I thought, I really have the opportunity to be reasonable here. Because while I was being sad and like processing this, there was a tiny part of me that thought I could be mad at my husband all day about this. Like I could be really angry. Not that I wanted to be, but I just think there's that flesh that rises up in us sometimes that could be mad about something like that and choose to be upset and bitter. But I am obviously having some issues here with my nose. Excuse me. And so I chose instead to be reasonable. And he apologized obviously several times, and he didn't mean to. It wasn't like he was being hateful about like, oh, let's just get rid of everything. He didn't know. Although I would have thought maybe he would have smelled the mint because it's very easy to smell, but he's shaking his head no, there was no smell. So good news, I came out and checked it, and there was some a little bit buried underneath that hadn't been rooted up yet, and so I think it will grow back. And like I said, mint is very resilient because I do know a tiny bit about a few herbs. And like, and it transplants, and so even if that one piece of mint grows up well, I'll be able to split it and grow it soon, and it kind of multiplies on its own too. So we're praying that the mint comes back. I came back inside, and Will said, I just want you to know, I've prayed about your mint. I feel confident and have faith that it's going to grow back. And so, as small as that may seem, I have faith that my mint's going to grow back. The Lord cares about the small things that our hearts care about, and that was my story of yesterday, and me walking out in the things that I am talking about to others, and also trying to apply to myself to be reasonable in the small and the big things. And here is, our mowed yard that we're taking the shrubs out of, but more importantly, here's my neighbor's beautiful yard behind me that we enjoy. So, hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining me on my swing.